Oh gosh. So this is a seal that I believe the fluid was getting past. Hey guys, welcome back. So this is going to be part 2 on this RANSOMES Jaguar 4000. So in the first video, we picked this thing up from a junkyard where it was sitting for at least 20 to 25 years. There was rust all over it. We got this diesel engine running. So where we left off, we were fixing these hydraulic cylinders as they were leaking really bad, and we got the seals replaced in them. I went ahead and got some parts for it. Also picked up a belt, which was not too hard to find, but it was expensive, $150 or more, I think. So if you haven't seen part 1, be sure to check it out. I will post it in the description. So let's go ahead and start working on this thing. I'm glad I cleaned this area up because, as you can see, we got a pretty good sized crack all the way around this mower bracket. And I was looking at this when I was cleaning it up, and I was like, man, those can't be factory welds. So somebody definitely had hit something really hard with this end, which ended up cracking that. What's that old grinder and paint saying? Yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. Alright, looks like a professional. So you can see our pin here is really wore out. So let's go ahead and cut this off and we'll replace it. Add a stainless steel pin here, we can replace it with. clip right there. Go ahead and get that welded up. Alright, I would say that is good enough. So by the way guys, if you haven't gotten yourselves one of these diesel heaters, and you're really missing out. This thing's made by Vevor. They sent me this about a year ago, and I really wanted to test it out before I promoted it on my channel. I'd have to say it really has passed the test. This thing will keep the shop nice and toasty even with the door open. Yeah, that thing is really nice. Now this is the second model of this. They make a model that looks like that, and this one's more for like your shop. But this is kind of like a temporary setup. I plan to actually put this in like a dump truck or excavator later on. That's what this one's actually made for. This one's made for actually going in a vehicle because it runs off 12 volts. So I just got a battery running it right now. But if you're having one for a shed, this one would probably work better. Unless you want to run it off a 12 volt power source the whole time. But anyway, I'll leave a link in the description for this if any of you guys are interested. These things are really nice to have in the winter. That's a nice warm air coming out of there. So yeah, it comes with this little display and a remote. You can put that in your dash and operate it with the remote. Alright, let's go ahead and get this deck straightened out and see if we can get this belt put on here. I want to get some of these grease zerk fittings fixed. That one is like completely rusted out. This one right here seems to be okay. This one's pretty rusted out as well. Let's see if we can take these off and replace them. There's also a ton of like buildup. I'm guessing this is old petrified grease. Well, that one's already loose. Alright, well that was easy. That loose. That was really rusted. This one is most likely gonna break. Almost positive. Well, I might be wrong actually. That just ends turning there. I think it's turning. It is turning, yes. Alright. Man, we really lucked up on that. Wow. That thing was so rusted out. Guys, it is cold out. River is frozen. Oh, went through that time. How are you doing, baby? Huh? Hey, sweetheart. Hey, sweetheart. Hey, baby. You can see she's kind of limping on her back leg there. She tore her ACL, so we're gonna have to get her surgery. It's gonna be pretty expensive, and it's also kind of hard to find a vet right now that will do the surgery. But she gets along really well on her 3 legs. Yeah, right, girl. Yeah. Baby. Hey, come on. Hi, baby. Come on. Come here. Yeah, she just kind of hops around. But, yeah. she does get along pretty good. She's been like this for probably 2 months now. We were hoping it was going to heal, but I guess when you tear your ACL, it doesn't really heal back. So she's going to have the surgery done. Poor thing. I hate seeing her hurt. She's not really in pain. She just kind of hops around. Alright, so I was able to find these 1/4 by 20 or something like that. Let's go ahead and check this gearbox fluid. Okay, there's none in it. Alright, this is where you check it. There's actually a drain bolt way up under here. I think I'm going to have to take the whole thing loose in order to get to it. Here's our gearbox, and that is what is left of our belt here. Wow. So now I can kind of see probably why this thing was left at the junkyard. This belt. This thing is a pain. All right. Well, there it goes. It's probably like never been changed. Alright, so while we're waiting for that gear oil to drain, let's go ahead and replace this bushing here. See if we can get this old bushing out of here. There's our old bushing. Sweet. That is definitely a whole lot better right there. Took all the play out of it. Alright, let's see if we can get this belt routed. that's how it goes. Alright, I believe that's good. Okay, now that I have all this put back together, I just kind of noticed the issue. I took this bolt out, but it's got a little bit of play in that, so I don't know if it's the key on the shaft or the gear. Might as well just go ahead and take this apart and see what's going on with it. So I don't know if you can see in there or not, but it's actually kind of loose on that gear. See that? Pressed in there. So I think I'm actually just gonna leave it like it is. Right now there's just a Woodruff key that's holding that gear on. I mean, it's slightly loose, but it's not horribly bad. If it ever breaks, I'll replace it then. Right now I think it's more trouble than it's worth.
Hey, bud. Hey. You sleeping, buddy? Nice and warm? Hey, buddy.
So the grease fitting was actually missing out of this universal joint here. So I'm really glad it's still in good shape because it was never greased. So let's kind of get this cleaned up a little bit. I'll go ahead and get a grease fitting on it. Alright, we'll get that greased up now. Let's go ahead and fill this thing all the way up with some gear oil. Woodruff key. So I'm looking at these, this is like ball and socket joint here, and there's no grease zerks on it. I'm really thinking I should probably add one, because if this wears out, I don't know if I'll be able to replace it. got everything greased up. I replaced a few grease zerks. I think it's time to go ahead and reinstall the mower deck. This thing actually has a little welded spot right here, so you gotta line these up right. Cylinder installed here. All right, I think this thing is for the most part finished. Still gotta do some other work to it, but for now, let's go ahead and crank it up and see if this thing will actually lift up. Give it some heat. You can actually see the little glow plug element in there heating up. See it getting kind of red hot there. So that's good, it works. Seems like everything is working pretty good so far.
So I guess replacing the O-rings and seals fixed that issue of the cylinder leaking out of that vent up there, because I'm not seeing any leaks anywhere. So that is awesome. So here we can get a good look of underneath the mowing deck. You can see we got some string on here, but the blades are in really nice shape, other than just being kind of old looking. Yeah, they're just a little rusty. Not bad at all. Still have the full cutting edge. We'll go ahead and pull these off and get them sharpened up. So these have like a through bolt on them. Never seen one like that. Looks like the whole spindle comes out. Interesting design. It's a pretty old rope there.
So when they installed this blade here, they actually did it wrong because they had this washer on this side and one on this side. There's only supposed to be one here, and on the other ones there's only one here, so it's making the blades unlevel. That one was tough. So I noticed this pulley has a slight crack in it. I'm wondering if water got in there with it being so rusty and kind of expanded and cracked that. Or maybe they just bolted it on too tight because that thing was on there. And you can see on this one there's no washer under it like there was that other one. So these blades were at different heights. Doubt these are gonna free up, but we'll give it a try. Wow, that really surprised me. That one's freed up too. Man, as rusty as these things are, I'm really doubting that. Sweet. All right, so now that we got the mower deck done for now, let's go ahead and start working on this rear steering cylinder. So this thing was pouring out fluid, as you can see how wet it is. So I don't want that going all over the ground while I'm mowing. So let's go ahead and get that fixed. So this is probably a good time to go ahead and drain this hydraulic fluid. That way it doesn't spill out everywhere. The fluid doesn't look bad actually. I believe it's motor oil what they have in there right now. That's what it calls for. And I probably don't have a big enough bucket. Okay, I better stop that. So the magnet also looks really clean too. There's just like a very, very small amount on there. All right, let's go ahead and see what this filter looks like. Man, that thing is an old filter. Look at that. Old wicks. That thing is from the 90s, it looks like. If I can find a part number on it. Looks like 512-51259. Alright, I picked up this CarQuest filter. 85551. So everything lines up right, so hopefully it won't fit. It's kind of hard to write there. One way you can kind of keep the fluid from leaking out of these hoses, just take some earplugs and twist them and stick them in there. There's our hydraulic cylinder. So one thing I just noticed is this switch here and this arm, so when the cylinder slides,
it hits this stop switch here, but this thing is like, was really seized up. Well, there he goes. It's freed up now. Put some grease on that.
So these seals are absolutely fried. You can tell right here. The crazy thing is, this seal wasn't even leaking though. It's actually this seal that's leaking. Let's go ahead and empty the fluid out of these.
I think definitely had some corrosion in it. Maybe I can just pop this. Wow, look at that seal. That thing is toast. That O-ring is bad. Alright, so we can see the cylinder in there. Now, is there any way to pull it out? That's one of the worst seals I've ever seen. Aha, there we go. That took way longer than it should have. So now we got to get this backup ring out of here. There we go. This kind of brass washer. And here is our seals. Perfect. Completely smooth. So I was looking at this switch here for the steering cylinder, wondering what it actually goes to. So I was following these wires, and these wires go right up here, and I pulled them out of the frame and they were actually cut. So I was looking up under here, thinking what they might go to, and it looks like they go to what I believe is a rotary flow divider. So basically you have your input hydraulic pressure coming in here, and it has this electric solenoid, and then basically two outputs that go to each one of the drive motors. So this is electronically controlled, and up there are two little spade terminals, kind of hard to see, that don't have any connections on them. The way this works is whenever you're steering your wheels, it sends electrical power to the solenoid to basically determine which wheel has more pressure. It kind of acts as like a hydraulic differential in a way. However, I don't know how this was wired up. So it's really hard to see down in there. You can kind of see it down there. I'll have to remove this gas tank to get a better look. But it basically has two spade terminals on that solenoid.
And there was some, you can tell somebody had cut some wires in here, and it looks like they cut a positive wire and then basically just go into the battery. I put these zip ties on here, but there was a cut wire. So if anybody has any idea how that flow divider is hooked up, please post in the comments. It should be pretty simple how it's hooked up. I just want to make sure before I mess anything up. So right now we are waiting for all our seals to come in for the steering cylinder. So in the meantime, I guess we can go ahead and start changing the oil on this engine and fixing a couple of other odds and ends on the steering. One issue that I noticed on the steering, when I took pressure off it, there's a big gap here, and it's basically kind of wearing in the spindle. There's a trick you can do by putting basically a needle bearing right there, and that will definitely help. But I think just putting like a washer there will really prolong the life of that. So this inner tie rod didn't have any kind of grease zerk, so looking like the grease is a little dry in there, so let's go ahead and add a grease zerk to it. Alright guys, I finally got some seals in. It took about 2 weeks to get, so it really slowed me down. So there's actually kind of like a little cup right there, and that goes in towards the pressure. And just a little bit of assembly loops, this goes in a little bit better. So the seal really isn't wanting to go in because it has that lip right there, and that has to face towards the pressure. So I'm just going to try something here. It's got like a old can. Alright, now let's try and push that seal in there. That might be it right there. Let's see if we can actually pull this thing out. There we go. That worked. Sweet. And now we have our copper washer here. I believe we have our snap ring now. We have our gland end seal here. I'm just going to put some Loctite 515 on it. Maybe that will kind of help retain the seal. Seems to work good. Let's try this Devor bead breaker and see if it can break these beads loose.
Seems to be working. Pushing that bead down. Oh, we're off the bead right here. Yeah, this is a tough one. Yeah, that's off the bead right there. Let's see if we can get the rest of the way off. Well, the bead came loose, but the rim's really rusted. This has got to be one of the hardest tires I've ever had to take off a rim. And you can see why. Inside that rim is full of rust. Wow. Look at all that rust in there. Good Lord. Yeah. And that thing was definitely sitting for a while. There's our issue. The bolt's a little bent. Went in, picked up some of these run flat or solid foam tires. All right, picked up a new seat for this thing.
this thing out. Oh yeah, that thing's gonna be nice on the back. Slides pretty easy. Sweet.
Alright, let's go ahead and change the oil on this thing. It's a little black, as you would expect for a diesel engine. See if we can get this oil filter out of here.
MD 031805. I looked this up and I could not find a genuine one. Got this Kubota filter. Hopefully that will fit. Alright. Hopefully now everybody doesn't think this is a Kubota. Perfect. Got the good stuff, Rotella T5. Alright, we are right there on the top mark. Perfect. I went ahead and picked up some of this AMSOIL synthetic hydraulic fluid. This stuff is very expensive, but it's supposed to be the best you can get as far as these Sunstrand hydraulic pumps and motors, so hopefully it's worth the money. Let's top this coolant off. Also got a new radiator cap here. Yeah, this fan belt looks a little loose. Let's go ahead and tighten that up. All right, guys, I believe we are finally done, at least for now. Man, this thing has been a huge project, and it's still not completely done. I would like to paint this thing and get some new tires for the drive wheels, cut this thing off, fix some of the holes in the rut where the rust is, and give it a good paint job. But yeah, this thing has turned out awesome. Let's go ahead and start it up and test this thing out. Man, this thing is an absolute beast. It's running absolutely perfect. I mean, I don't see any hydraulic leaks. Steering is working wonderful. The only thing I need to do is I need to adjust the rollers on the deck because they're a little bit too high up, so they're kind of, you can see where it's rubbing the ground here. But other than that, this thing is working amazingly well. Okay, so I found out why this roller was digging into the ground like that. These bolts were in the wrong area. I had them way up here, and so that allowed this deck to kind of sit down. So I got those adjusted, and I went ahead and put some new bolts and adjusted that roller. Well guys, I would have to say this thing is pretty awesome. I've tested a lot of mowers so far, and I'd have to say that this one is definitely up there with the top of them. This thing is actually really fun to drive, and the seat that I put on here is just amazing with the suspension. So my back's pretty bad, and that definitely helps out a lot. So this thing operated perfectly. I mean, I didn't have any issues with it, and I ran it for a few hours. There's absolutely no leaking on any of the hydraulic cylinders anymore. That definitely seemed to fix that issue. The blades held up. I did hit 1 or 2 rocks, and man, it just spit it out like it was nothing. There's no more hydraulic leaks. As you can see, everything is dry in there. So this Mitsubishi engine held out and ran perfectly. I have absolutely no complaints with that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up here. As always, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and working on this RANSOMES Jaguar 4000. It was a lot of work, but we were able to breathe new life in this machine, and now it should last for many more years to come. I might paint this machine. I haven't made up my mind yet, but that might be in another video. Until then, I will see you guys on the next video. Y'all take care. Later.